Dean Martin was never just a voice drifting through a radio speaker or a smile framed by the rim of a cocktail glass. To the public, he represented ease itself, a man who seemed to glide through life untouched by effort, untouched by worry, untouched by consequence. His charm felt instinctive, his humor unforced, his music smooth enough to make even heartbreak sound gentle and forgiving. In the golden glow of mid-century Hollywood, Dean Martin appeared to embody success without strain and joy without cost. A man who had somehow figured out how to enjoy life while the rest of the world worked to survive it. But the image of effortless cool was exactly that, an image. Behind it lived a man who learned early how to hide pain behind humor, how to turn vulnerability into charm, and how to make the world laugh so it would never see him struggle. What audiences mistook for ease was actually discipline, restraint, and survival refined into style. A childhood marked by difference. Dean Martin began life far from spotlights and stage lights. Born Dino Paul Crocetti in 1917 in Steubenville, Ohio, he was the son of Italian immigrants who arrived in America carrying little more than hope, pride, and their native language. At home, Italian filled the rooms with warmth and familiarity. But outside those walls, it marked him as different. At school, Dino's thick accent made him a target for ridicule, a boy singled out before he ever had the chance to belong. Mockery followed him through classrooms and playgrounds, and with every laugh directed his way, he learned that standing out could hurt. These early experiences carved something deep into him, a sensitivity masked by humor and a quiet desire to be accepted without having to explain who he was. Music became a refuge, a place where language barriers disappeared and emotion could flow freely, untouched by judgment or misunderstanding. Leaving school to learn survival, by the age of 16, Dino walked away from formal education and stepped into the harsh reality of adult responsibility. He worked in steel mills where the air was heavy and the labor unforgiving, boxed for money under bright lights and darker circumstances, and took on whatever jobs would help him survive another week. The work was brutal, physically demanding, and exhausting in ways that left no room for self-pity. Yet it gave him something school never had: respect earned through endurance. Every bruise, every long shift, every morning he woke sore and returned anyway shaped him. These years hardened him, not into bitterness, but into resilience. He learned how to endure without complaint, how to absorb pressure without breaking, and how to keep moving forward even when there was no applause waiting at the end. Discovering the power of charm. While working as a blackjack dealer in smoky nightclubs, Dino began to understand people in a way no classroom could teach. He watched how they laughed, what eased their tension, what made them feel welcome even when luck wasn't on their side. He learned that charm wasn't about dominance or volume, it was about timing, warmth, and knowing when to step back. Slowly, music found its way back into his life. Singing in clubs under the name Dino Martini, he tested his voice against indifferent crowds who were often more interested in drinks than melodies. The response was frequently cold. Silence followed performances where he had given everything. He later admitted those moments hurt deeply, more than any punch he had taken in the boxing ring. But instead of quitting, he adjusted, refined, and endured, learning that rejection didn't mean failure. It meant waiting. Reinventing himself as Dean Martin. Changing his name to Dean Martin wasn't just a career move, it was an act of reinvention. He softened his image, refined his sound, and tried again with quiet determination. Success didn't arrive overnight, and there were many nights when he sang beautifully to rooms that barely noticed. The rejection chipped away at him, but it also taught him humility, patience, and self-control. Dean Martin was being built slowly, layer by layer, long before the world paid attention. What kept him going wasn't confidence or arrogance, it was belief. A quiet, stubborn belief that his voice mattered, even when no one seemed to be listening. The accident that changed everything. In 1945, in a small New York club, fate intervened in the most unexpected way. A young, chaotic comic named Jerry Lewis interrupted Dean's act, turning order into mayhem. Instead of anger, something clicked between them. Their chemistry was instant, unscripted, and electric. What began as disruption turned into partnership, and soon Martin and Lewis became a phenomenon. They blended music and comedy in a way audiences had never experienced, feeding off each other's energy and unpredictability. Fame arrived quickly, almost violently in its speed. For the first time in his life, Dean Martin felt truly visible, no longer overlooked, no longer waiting in silence. Success with a hidden cost. While the public adored the duo, the balance within it was uneven. Critics focused heavily on Jerry Lewis's manic brilliance, often reducing Dean to the role of the handsome straight man. Though the success was real, so was the frustration. Dean worked relentlessly, yet felt unseen for the full scope of his talent. Over time, resentment grew, not from ego, but from a desire to be recognized as more than half of a partnership. In 1956, exhausted and quietly wounded, he made the difficult decision to walk away. Many believed it would end his career. Dean believed it was the only way to save it. Standing alone at last. Breaking from Jerry Lewis forced Dean Martin to face the world on his own terms. The risk was enormous, but so was the reward. His dramatic performance in The Young Lions proved he could stand beside acting giants with confidence and depth. Soon after, his music reached new heights. When Everybody Loves Somebody climbed to #1, surpassing even the Beatles, it wasn't just a chart victory. It was personal validation. Dean Martin was no longer part of something successful. He was successful on his own, the King of Las Vegas. As a member of the Rat Pack alongside Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin helped transform Las Vegas into an entertainment capital. On stage, he appeared carefree, joking effortlessly with a drink in hand, delivering humor with perfect timing. But the image was carefully controlled. The drink was often apple juice. The looseness was practiced. Dean understood performance deeply, and he knew how to give audiences what they wanted without exposing everything. On television, The Dean Martin Show and the celebrity roasts made him a permanent fixture in American homes. He was beloved, familiar, and endlessly watchable. A man who wanted home more than applause. Despite fame, Dean Martin longed for simplicity. He valued family deeply, even when life didn't unfold the way he hoped. His marriages reflected both his desire for connection and the strain of a life lived under constant demand. His second marriage, which lasted nearly 25 years, gave him stability and a sense of home he cherished. He loved his children fiercely, though he carried quiet guilt over time lost and moments missed. These were burdens he rarely spoke about, choosing instead to shoulder them privately. The loss that changed him forever. Nothing in Dean Martin's life prepared him for the loss of his son, Dean Paul Martin, in 1987. Dean Paul was his pride, talented, disciplined, and full of promise. His sudden death shattered something in Dean that never fully healed. Friends noticed the change immediately. The humor softened. The spark dimmed. Even those closest to him acknowledged that the loss marked a turning point. He didn't try to perform through the pain. He withdrew, choosing quiet over applause, grief over distraction, choosing silence over the spotlight. After the tragedy, Dean Martin stepped back from public life. He spent his days simply playing golf, watching old westerns, enjoying familiar routines. The man who once commanded rooms with ease now found comfort in stillness. This wasn't bitterness or surrender. It was survival. He had given so much of himself to the world, and now he chose to preserve what remained. His cool exterior had never meant detachment. It had always been restraint. Facing the end with grace. In his later years, Dean's health declined. Diagnosed with lung cancer, he chose comfort and dignity over invasive treatment. Surrounded by family, he spent his final months quietly, often sitting in silence, holding hands, listening. His daughter would softly sing "Everybody Loves Somebody," returning the gift he had once given the world. These moments weren't performances. They were exchanges of love, memory, and presence. A quiet farewell on a loud holiday. Dean Martin passed away on Christmas Day in 1995 at the age of 78. While the world celebrated outside, those closest to him gathered in stillness. In Las Vegas, the city he helped define, the lights dimmed in tribute. For a city built on spectacle, the gesture was deeply symbolic. It was a quiet thank you to a man who had given it warmth, humor, and heart. The man behind the legend. Dean Martin's life was filled with contradictions. He was an icon who craved normalcy, a performer whose charm was forged in hardship, a legend who endured profound loss. His story isn't just about fame, it's about endurance, adaptation, and emotional restraint. He taught the world how to make joy look effortless, even when it wasn't. A legacy that still sings. Today, Dean Martin lives on through his music, his films, and the feeling he left behind. His voice still comforts, his humor still disarms, and his presence still feels close. He reminds us that behind every smile is a story, and behind every legend is a human being doing their best to carry what life gives them. And when his songs play, soft and timeless, they still whisper the same truth. Everybody really does love somebody sometime.